3.02 Planning your narrative. Think first. Get your story straight. Expand your mind. Get set to plan your story. Brainstorm for ideas and organize your thoughts. At the end of this lesson, you will make a plan for your story by completing a narrative organization chart. Objectives. After completing this lesson, you will be able to generate ideas based on a narrative prompt. Plan the beginning, middle, and end of an original narrative text. Complete a graphic organizer to outline key components of a narrative text. Extraordinary narrative stories. Think about a story or movie that was so amazing you could not tear yourself away. Narratives present different stories, but they all have one thing in common: organization. These narratives are written with a plan that is meant to grab your attention from the beginning to the end. What is this plan? Can you write a narrative that your reader can't put down? Of course! To write a terrific narrative, it is important to organize your ideas so you have a solid plan for your story. Organize your narrative. How do you get organized? Brainstorm. First, you brainstorm ideas for your story. Who are the characters? What is the setting? What conflict will the protagonists face? How will this conflict get resolved? What did the character learn? Think about things that have happened to you or to people you know. Think about events you have read about. There is an endless list of possibilities. Order. After you brainstorm, you weave together your chosen characters, setting, conflict, and resolution in a specific order by planning the 3 sections of a narrative story: the beginning, the middle, and the end. Just like your favorite authors and screenwriters, you will focus on the elements that appear within each section. Beginning. Introduce the character and setting. Middle. Write about the conflict, the rising action, and the climax. End. Write the resolution and a reflection. Extraordinary narrative stories. Read this short adaptation of a mayhem-filled fable, The Boy Who Cried Wolf. Then take a look at the narrative organization chart below to see how the author organized the ideas. The Boy Who Cried Wolf, adapted by Valencia Ward. Peter yawned as he sat alone on the tree stump. He glanced at the sheep grazing peacefully in front of him. He glanced at the sleepy town behind him. He lowered his head into his hands and sighed loudly. He had the most boring job in the world. He thought tending the sheep at night would be fun. He would be outdoors in the cool breeze, watching for wolves, ready to alert the townspeople at the first sign of danger. The problem was that danger didn't exist. It had been a month, and there had not been the single wolf. The sheep ate, the town slept, and Peter longed desperately for excitement. One night, overcome with boredom, he decided to spice things up. Eager for adventure, or at least some company, he leaped to the top of his tree stump and shouted toward town, "Wolf!" The sheep gave him a confused look, but the townsfolk sprang to life. The dark homes grew bright with light. Men, women, and children, wearing pajamas and carrying weapons, rushed up the hill to his side. "Well done, Peter," they cried. "Where's the wolf?" "We'll get him." Thinking fast, Peter covered for his prank. "The wolf is gone," he explained. "You scared him away. Since you're here, why not stay and keep me company?" A few of the townsfolk remained a while and chatted with Peter in case the wolf came back. Before long, though, the entire town was back in bed, and Peter was back to being bored. It worked the first time, he told himself. It's bound to work again. A loud cry of "Wolf! Wolf!" and the town sprang to action again. Lights flashed, and within minutes citizens joined Peter, ready to defend the sheep from attack. When Peter explained that the wolf had once more been scared away, the townsfolk grumbled and headed home. Peter heard several mumble that they didn't believe his story. No one stayed to chat. It had been fun, but he realized He had taken the prank too far. Peter watched the last house go dark. He settled on his stump, ready to spend the rest of the night in silence and solitude. It was then that he saw it. At first, it seemed like a shadow. When the sheep started to stir, he realized it was something more. It was a wolf, a real one. He screamed toward the town at the top of his lungs, "Wolf! Wolf! Wolf! Help! Help!" The town remained dark. No one stirred. No one believed. Peter grabbed a stick and ran at the wolf. He would do his best to scare it away. He knew he could not save all of the sheep, but he hoped he could save a few. He also hoped he could someday find a way to make the town forgive him. The author of The Boy Who Cried Wolf began organizing her ideas on a narrative organization chart. Review how she filled in her ideas for the beginning, middle, and end of the story. Read the notes for tips to remember when you complete a chart of your own. The beginning of your narrative introduces two important elements: characters and setting. List the major characters of your story. Provide short descriptions. You will develop their personalities throughout your story. Setting. Describe your story's setting. Most narratives will have a small number of locations. Include the time and the place in which your story will occur. Characters: Peter, shepherd boy; townspeople, sheep, wolf. Setting: include time and place. A long time ago, late at night, on a hill, and in a valley near a small town. The middle of your story introduces and develops the conflict. Conflict. Peter is bored and seeks excitement. This sets your story in motion. Rising action. List events that will add action to your story. Each event should increase the complications. It should increase your reader's interest too. Peter lies about Wolf. Peter lies about Wolf again. Climax. Envision the moment that your conflict reaches its peak. A real wolf appears. The end of your narrative wraps up the story and clarifies the purpose of your writing. End. Resolution of conflict. Describe how your conflict comes to an end. Explain what happens to your main characters after the climax. No one believes Peter when he calls for help. Reflection. Clarifies the purpose. Consider how your main character will feel about what has happened. Provide your character's thoughts to show the reader whether you wrote the story to inspire, to entertain, to teach, etc. Reflection. Peter realized he must face the wolf himself and find a way to prove himself to the townsfolk. With the narrative organization chart complete, the author has a clear plan for her story. The ideas are in place. The writing process may begin. Brainstorming ideas using a prompt. When you are provided a prompt to give your narrative story focus, there are many unique approaches to create and organize your own story. You can imagine your own characters, setting, conflict, and resolution to the story. Let's say that a class read The Boy Who Cried Wolf. Here is an example of a prompt that might be assigned. In The Boy Who Cried Wolf, the author introduces a character named Peter. Think about Peter and the personality the author developed. The story ends with Peter hoping he can earn the town's forgiveness. Write a narrative that picks up the story a short time in the future. Be sure to use what you've learned about the character of Peter as you tell what happens next. Take a look at the activity below to see how two different students organize their unique ideas into a narrative organization chart. Notice that these two students read the same prompt, but they wrote completely different stories. By using the narrative organizational chart, their stories will be well developed and fun to read. Student 1. He will babysit his sister to show his parents he could be responsible. Peter will work like crazy to do a good job. How about starting with his family? What if his parents come home and find a mess? What if the sister is a brat? He needs to start small. How can Peter win back people's trust? He will tell the truth and earn their respect. Beginning: Peter, sister, mom, dad. Setting: a month after the original story. Place: Peter's house. Conflict: Peter must win his parents' trust. Rising action: Peter babysits, sister breaks stuff, sister runs out, Peter tries to fix things before the parents return. Climax: parents walk in the door. Resolution of conflict: Peter accepts the blame, but parents respect him for being honest. Reflection: Peter realizes that the truth is always best. He makes a small step to winning back trust. Student 2. A teacher says his imagination is out of control. A friend says Peter always stretches the truth. Little kids say that his stories are great. It looks like he'll go to jail. A judge brings in witnesses. The judge realizes Peter has something to offer. Maybe Peter is on trial for lying. Peter becomes the town storyteller. Beginning: Peter, judge, witnesses, friend, teacher, little girl, kids. The setting: the day after the wolf attack. Place: a courtroom. Conflict: Peter's on trial for what he did wrong. He may go to jail. Rising action: friend testifies that Peter lies a lot. Teacher says Peter's imagination is too big. Peter cannot defend his actions. Climax: girl arrives as a judge is about to sentence him to jail. Resolution of conflict: the little girl explains how Peter is great at telling stories. Other kids agree. The judge makes Peter the town storyteller. Reflection: the town realizes that mistakes can be forgiven and kids should be given a chance to find their strengths. Recap: way to go! Now you know how to create a clear plan for your extraordinary narrative story. A narrative storyline has a beginning with characters and setting, a middle with a conflict, rising action, and climax, and an end, a resolution, and a reflection. What is my assignment for this lesson? Read the lesson, finish the activities in the lesson, read the instructions, save your work to your computer or drive, and submit your work in 3.02, Planning Your Narrative. Instructions: you will read a story and a prompt. Then you will organize your own stories in the narrative organization chart. Read The Great North American Circus. In the story, the author provides colorful descriptions of the growing excitement and the upcoming circus. As the passage ends, two boys read a notice listing a variety of attractions. In the narrative organization chart, plan your own story featuring the two boys as characters and the circus as your setting. Be sure to use details from the text as you organize your story. Complete each box on your narrative organization chart.